But we move on to the big debate tonight. A special NIA court, viewers, has acquitted Swami Aseemanand and 3 others, the 4 main accused in the Samjhauta train blast case that left 68 people dead in 2007. The special court ruled that the investigating agency had failed to prove its charges, that the blast that took place on the Pakistan-bound train in 2007 near Panipat in Haryana, it ripped 2 coaches. It killed 68 people. Most of them, over 40 of them, were actually Pakistani nationals. And today, 12 years later, the court has decided that the NIA has not been able to give sufficient evidence against these accused, and so they must go. NIA Special Judge Jagdeep Singh, in fact, also dismissed the plea that was filed just recently by a Pakistani woman who wanted to come and depose as an eyewitness from her country, saying that there are lots of us in our country who've not been given a chance to come and depose. That plea was also rejected by the NIA today. But I have a few very basic questions. Why is it that right now in our country, we have such an abysmal rate of conviction when it comes to such crucial terror and criminal cases? Every now and then we read in news that those who have been accused of serious charges, including terror, have been acquitted, not found guilty, not enough evidence. Is it because of political interference every time? Is it because ideologies change and so the way the path of investigation changes? Or is it simply a shoddy investigation that our agencies carry out? Witness after witness turning hostile, confessions being made, and then the accused saying that confessions were made to be done under due pressure and that they haven't done it. That's the story in every single case. Now I can count. Mecca Masjid case, 11 people, key suspects, all acquitted. The Delhi blast case, same story. In the Malegaon 2006-2008 case, same story. It's changing. The witnesses are turning hostile. NIA itself is now changing its stand, changing its entire theory. What is going on? At the end of the day, we are failing in giving justice to the families of the victims in each of these cases. 68 people died, and tonight we have let down the families of those 68 victims by not giving them justice. Somebody plotted that terror attack. Somebody put those bombs there that led to the blast. Who did it? Will India ever know the truth? Some of the questions that run through my mind tonight. Let's say good evening to Dr. Gulrez Sheikh, spokesperson for the BJP, Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson for the Congress Party, Ramakant Gaur, lawyer with the Supreme Court, Pramod Kumar, senior journalist, and Shantanu Sen, former joint director of the CBI. And Pramod Kumar, I actually want to start with you. You have a lot of experience, covering these cases. How is it that, firstly, it takes years and years, obviously, because of the way our judicial system is designed. And then at the end of the day, we always come to the point, not enough evidence, and the suspects have been acquitted. What do you attribute this to? Mr. Pramod Kumar, good evening. Can you hear me?
Hi, Han, yeah. Now, can you please repeat your question?
Yes, Mr. Kumar, good evening. My question to you was, why do you think that in so many cases, we are failing to prove the case, that every time the judge turns around and says the prosecution just didn't have enough evidence? We saw the Makkah Masjid case and this case. Is it shoddy prosecution or is it something else?
Yeah, see, one thing I must tell you here very clearly, as it is said that justice delayed is justice denied. You have seen in this case that judgment is coming almost after 12 years. And as you mentioned it earlier, there were total 8 accused in this case. 4 accused were tried only. And one accused died also. 3 accused are missing. There is, investigative agency. They don't have any information about the whereabouts of the all these three, absconding accused. So what I mean to say that when the legal process takes time, there are certain things which automatically get vanish. Okay, so in this case also same thing has happened, as judge has clearly said that investigative agency failed to produce enough evidence against the accused. So I would like to say that, it took too much time in in concluding this particular case, which took place in 2007. So what I would like to say that usually it becomes very difficult for the agencies to keep the evidence alive or to maintain the evidence against the accused when the things are delayed, when the legal process is delayed.
Okay, Ramakant Gaur disagrees, I think, with what Mr. Pramod Sharma is saying. Mr. Gaur?
In fact, I would say this particular case is a paradigm of shoddy investigation and ineffective prosecution. This is a case which occurred in February 2007. Charge sheet was filed 4.5 years later. 3 accused persons are still absconding. What was investigating agency doing all those years? And thereafter, once after filing the charge sheet, majority of witnesses did not turn up in the court. 23 witnesses were turned hostile. Why it happened? We need to look at it. Your question was very pertinent, Tanvi. Why such things happen in all this kind of cases? Because the investigating agencies are not that much equipped. Scientific investigating agencies investigation is missing. What happens is they pick a person, get the statement in custody, and feel that their duty is done, their job is done, and that's why custodial torture takes place. And a lot many such things happen. Ineffective prosecution is one of the aspects which we need to look at. We are a mature nation now. We failed in majority of cases because of ineffective prosecution. At times police has done, or any other investigating agency has done very well, but the prosecution failed to put the witnesses in the right perspective. There we fail. Delay is another cause. But delay is not the solitary cause. The cause of witnesses getting hostile is that we are not giving protection to the witnesses. If the witness is terrified, in such cases, they will not turn up. In case they are made to appear before the courts, they'll turn hostile. Because after all, they have to come out of the courtroom and they have to face the same criminals out of the courtroom. And their influence, the influence of the accused persons is much larger than that of police, because they are not protected at all. So these are few aspects which needs to be looked at, which needs to be addressed.
Okay, Mr. Pramod, do you want to respond to that before I go ahead to our other panelists?
Yes, I must tell you one thing, as it is said that certain things what did you say recently, witness turned hostile. So what I mean to say, what I'm trying to tell you here, that it happens in such cases. So that is the only reason which I'm telling you, when the legal process takes time, so it all these
Correct.
things starts happening. So this is what I am telling you.
But why is it happening? That's my question. Why are witnesses turning hostile? Why is it in a case like this, where Aseemanand's confession in Hindi was put out, that when he confessed even in the court, that tape was for everybody to hear, that was put out by Tehelka. Why is it that an interview carried over years by a magazine was then published, where again he went into details? He then turned around and said, oh wait, I said all of that under pressure because NIA wanted me to say it, and now everything has changed and he's out. And the NIA at one point stopped even opposing his bail.
Yeah.
The NIA in another case slapped terror charges. 5 years later, the government changes, NIA head changes, and then you have decided to drop these terror charges. So what is really happening here? Why can't our agencies work independently? Mr. Shantanu Sen, is that the biggest problem? It's not about whether or not NIA or CBI or ED is capable of the investigation. It is because they won't be allowed to investigate independently, and there will always be some or the other kind of political interference, the result of which is that justice is being denied.
Exactly. You're right. I mean,
we are talking about this case. We are talking about this case, and there are many other cases where the same questions arise. As Mr. Gaur rightly said, we are a democracy, and we have still retained the old system of investigation. Many points have been raised. I would like to raise another point. The Criminal Procedure Code 1973 has been amended to bring in Section 25 CRPC, which provides for public prosecutor, a directorate of prosecution, and he has to be appointed with the consent of the Chief Justice of the High Court. He has to be an advocate of 10 years' experience. Now, we should have introduced this system. What would have happened if there was a directorate of prosecution, like most civilized countries have it? Then the investigation done would have been seen through a fine-tooth comb by the director of prosecution, and he would have pointed out the weaknesses of the investigations. He could have said, which the investigating officer cannot say because the law does not permit him to discharge anybody. He has to prosecute anybody against whom there is some evidence, even inadequate evidence, because the inadequacy has to be decided by the court of trial. Now, here, if there was a directorate of prosecution, he could have dropped those cases, he could have improved the cases, he could have tested some of the witnesses who have gone hostile. There are witnesses who have been compelled to say things under the duress of force. They may not like to say these things. And he would have seen, and we further, as Mr. Gaur has very rightly said, we need forensic evidence to top witnesses' statement. We need scientific evidence to buttress and support witnesses who come before us. Merely putting up the case on the evidence of witnesses is weak evidence. And then there is this considerable delay. Here was an incident on February 18, 2007. The case is transferred to NIA 3 years later.
Yes.
NIA comes into the picture 3 years after the incident. Now, NIA is not God. If you don't reach the scene of crime immediately, you miss the most of evidence.
Correct.
NIA has got the blame, and you have every right to blame the NIA. But do realize that it was brought to the scene of investigation 3 years after the incident. Where would it look for evidence? So it does a shoddy job, certainly.
Yes.
And today, and what is more, out of 8 of the accused, the main one, Sunil Joshi, is bumped off sometimes during the investigation, and 3 others who had a key role to play in this case have been absconding. So you do not prosecute the main accused.
And
so we need a directorate of prosecution. Section 25 of the CRPC should be enforced. Why has it not been done, though the law was passed in 1973 and there were certain amendments, I think. We should have a directorate of prosecution. It will control the police.
Yes.
It will ensure proper investigation. it
Maybe
will
that's
see that false evidence is not allowed to go. Here the police files the charge sheet and 12 years later police is told your evidence was weak, bad. Where are the cops? They're all retired. So this is a bad system. We should modernize, as Mr. Gore says. We should have a director of prosecution. We should depend more on scientific evidence than individual witnesses.
yes,
And then
but
one more.
I do want to
protection
go
the
into some of the
witnesses.
details, Mr. Sen, and I will come.
Protection Act is very important.
And it's non-existent in our country. This Witness Protection
Right, so I'm
Act
concluding.
literally is non-existing in our country, and we hear reports every day of one or the other case
One thing I
where
would
people
like
are
to
being
tell you
intimidated.
here-
Mr. Pramod Kumar, just 1 minute, please. I have two more panelists I have not gone to. Let me go to them, and I will come back to you. The big question tonight is, if Aseemanand and the others did not plot and carry out this blast, then who did? Somebody did. Somebody is responsible for those 68 lives. Will we ever know that? Dr. Gulrez, there was in between a retired police officer, retired railways officer who came out and said, well, I was the one handling the case right first, and I was under pressure by my seniors to let go of this Pakistani man that we had in our custody, and under pressure we had to do that. He could have been linked to this. There have been numerous times when this Pakistani link has emerged, but it was never investigated after that. The NIA said we didn't find anything. The SIT chief at that point of time said no, we questioned that Pakistani chap, but we didn't find anything. There was nothing on him. The US at one point of time came out with their own dossier that said we have interviewed and interrogated Kasmani, and Kasmani seems to suggest that he knows the LET guys and he helped them plot this. Are you going to now open a fresh investigation? Will this country ever know who was behind this attack, if not Aseemanand?
See, if you ask me, are you going to open another investigation? I am not the person who should answer this question. Actually, this question must be asked to NIA. But personally asking, if you ask me, yes, and a fresh investigation should be started. But today I will say a lies which was inflated, a balloon of lies which was inflated for 17 years, and it was inflated by lies. Has busted out today, and the lies is shattered today. And you know why this man Swami Aseemanand was framed, and I am telling from the day one, he was framed only and only because he was working to stop the conversions of tribals in Maharashtra as well as in Gujarat by the Christian missionaries, and this was hurting Congress sentiments, and you should recognize that that time it was Congress and UPA rule, and just to help those missionaries, this poor person, he was framed. And not only this was the only goal, it was they were actually trying to hunt 2-3 targets with a single bullet. Firstly, they were wanting to help these missionaries to carry on their conversion work. Secondly, they were wanting to create a hype of saffron terror. They were wanting to create a binary in this society and create division for their vote politics and for their vote appeasement policy.
So, Dr. Gulrez, are you still talking about this case?
Most important of all, they were trying to blame.
I don't want to know about what Aseemanand was doing and about his life story. I am talking about the Samjhauta train blast, the train that goes from India to Pakistan that killed 68 people in 2007. I am saying, who will ensure that we get justice for those victims and their families? If NIA today has turned around and said we don't want to oppose the bail, we don't know if there is any more evidence. If the court is saying that you have presented to me weak evidence, isn't that embarrassing for the NIA? Tell me, what kind of prosecution was this agency carrying out?
This whole case was, let me speak.
No, you're talking about conversions. I don't know why you're talking about conversions right now.
This was spoiled by the previous government.
Okay, let me ask the person of Congress
this
party
person
then,
was
because the
framed,
onus is on
actually, and he
Congress
was
party.
framed to-
The investigation
No, 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 let
happened
me-
during
let me
Congress
continue,
party's
let me
era.
continue,
Let's go across to
let me
Aishwarya
say my side
Mahadev.
at least.
Aishwarya Mahadev, take responsibility. You must take responsibility, because in every single case that we've seen in the recent past where the complete change of prosecution standards happened were blasts that took place during your time. And it's always the initial investigation that matters the
Tanvi,
most, because
let me
that's where
just
you have
say
the
one
evidence.
sentence. If the government is doing politically motivated cases, justice can never be delivered.
So I don't know which government you are talking about, the previous one or the
And
now,
this
or the
entire
government
case
now.
was politically motivated.
Yes, okay. Aishwarya Mahadev,
No. The
you want to
Congress
respond to that?
party, that is the UPA government, they framed this man in a
Dr. Gulrez, let
conspiracy.
Aishwarya
And
respond,
if you
please.
frame
Can he
the
please
people
stop?
in conspiracy, they can never happen as justice.
Okay, let her respond to what you are saying now. Yes.
Tanvi, the simple fact of the matter is, yes, a lot of these blasts did take place during the UP era. Yes, investigations were begun then. But you can see post-2014, the way that suddenly witnesses turn hostile, the way that suddenly the NIA even asked public prosecutors, please look into it. There's a Miss Rohini Salian, who as public prosecutor was asked by the NIA itself to go easy on them and as the prosecution against what they were investigating. And also several other facts that have come out here. The fact of the matter remains that institutions that are extremely pliable and under the regime since 2014, you see that a lot of ongoing investigations have seen suddenly people going cold turkey, and that is the problem that exists. I will not talk about the communal angle about it, and I do not want to disgrace the dignity of the show by even talking about the Christian conversions, because I believe your show is more serious than the BJP's communal mudslinging. I'll talk about the fact is that these institutions require a systemic overhaul to prevent any form of overreach from the government. That is the fact of the matter. The NIA in itself has also seen a lot of evidence not being handled properly. You see that the court itself has admonished the NIA. What we need to look at is how to ensure the structural and also functional integrity of these institutions, not only under my dispensation, but even the current dispensation, any dispensation for a fact, because the ends of justice have not been met. Today, it is not about whether they were Pakistanis or Indians. It's the fact of the matter is 68 people have died, 68 people lost their lives, and we do not know whom to point blame at. After 17 years, if you say, was there a Pakistani angle, was there an Indian angle? The fact is the NIA should have point blank told us where responsibility lies, because that is the sort of sense of closure that the victim's family deserve and also the nation requires to be informed about. That has not happened.
A proper investigation is also done,
Aishwarya.
Aishwarya. The first charge sheet was filed in 2011.
Let us look at how
it took 3 years for your government to decide to bring in the NIA. For 3 years, it was the Haryana police that couldn't come up with a single clue. It took you 3 years to bring in the NIA. Why? Because then you realize, oh, there is a larger angle that can help us tie in all of these blast cases from Malegaon to Ajmer to Hyderabad.
Tanvi, the initial investigation that occurred happened in Panipat, happened in Haryana, and the police obviously drew blanks. And then even though the NIA, as much as the BJP has made it their little pawn, there was a time when the NIA had a certain amount of independence of investigation, as does the CIA and the CBI, none of which exists today. But we realize, and I completely concede, that there is an intrinsic link. I'm not placing blame on anyone, because I, as much as everybody in this country, doesn't know what exactly has happened. I'm not going to say, is there a correlation between certain right-wing extremists being let off since 2014? Maybe. Is there not? I cannot tell you for a fact. But there is an intrinsic link between the Ajmer blast, between the Delhi blast, between the Malegaon blast, the acquittals and all of the same, along with this case. What does that tell you? I'm not casting aspersions on anyone. I'm just not going to say it out loud.
Let me add a few more.
The dispensation that runs this. You understand the organization in a certain part of Maharashtra that runs this. So please tell me, what is the correlation there?
Let me also tell you that 2 death convicts were acquitted in the Lajpat Nagar blast case in November 2016. There were 3 Delhi blast accused who walked free in February 2017. And so it's case after case from Hyderabad, Makkah Masjid blast, and of course Malegaon to 2006 and 2008 is seeing its own twists and turns even as we speak. So Ramakant Gaur, you wanted to come in, but we don't know which political interference, where the,
Tanvi, I also want to say something.
Yes, I'm going to come across to you in just a bit, but Ramakant Gaur wanted to come in. Please let him finish his point and then I will come to you. Go ahead, please, Mr. Gaur.
then the credibility of the institution is endangered. It's not the question of who did what. Haryana police could not do anything in 3 years. NIA filed a charge sheet in 2011. If the Congress party is so cognizant and so concerned about these deaths, why the prosecution was not culminated in those 3 years when they were in power? There is no response to that. From 2011 to 2019, nothing material happened. No effective prosecution took place. So it's not the failure of NIA only. It's a failure of the system,
Yes.
which could instill security in the citizen. We have seen 57 people being killed in Muzaffarnagar, and that trial is not over yet. That happened in 2013. 6 years are passed. 60 years have been passed. Witnesses are being killed there. So this is the system which needs to be refreshed, which needs to be corrected.
Okay, I just want to point out in the Samjhauta Express trial, of course. Yes, just 1 minute, Mr. Gaur. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point this out very quickly. 3 months after the NDA government came to power in the Samjhauta Express trial, Aseemanand was granted bail by the Punjab and Haryana High Court in August 2014. The bail at that point of time was not opposed by the prosecuting agency, which is the NIA. The NIA also gave effectively a clean chit or didn't oppose any relief to Colonel Purohit, who was charge sheeted by the ATS. In 2007, Ajmer Blast Case. Also in 2017, Aseemanand was acquitted by a local court in this case. In Malegaon case in 2016, NIA dropped the charge name of Sadhvi Pragya from its charge sheet and giving her a clean chit. In 2017, then the Bombay High Court granted her bail. In the Samjhauta Blast case, the case was closed by NIA in 2015, citing lack of evidence. So I guess, Mr. Shantanu Hussain, the question I wanted to ask you was, who do we blame when the agency behaves like this? Can it happen without political pressure?
I want to say something.
You are reeling off statistics. You are reeling off statistics. And the way you are presenting them, the obvious conclusion is that the investigating agency has been cat's paw in the hands of politicians. What can one say to these facts? If something happens during one regime and the same thing is opposed during the other regime, this conclusion will inevitably arrive.
Yes.
So when we talk of autonomy of the police and autonomy of the CBI and autonomy of the NIA, we are actually not speaking the truth. This is a fact, a sad fact today. And
this is the fact, Mr. Sen, I wanted you... Yes.
At the time...
I wanted to present this fact because every time the Congress or the BJP tell us that NIA is doing an independent job and an independent investigation, I want them to know that nobody in the country is actually buying that. Sure, they are capable of doing an independent investigation. Sure, they are capable of doing a great investigation, an efficient investigation and proving that case in court. But are they really allowed to do that? And I am not for 1 minute standing here and saying that all the changes that NIA has made, whether it's dropped the charges, whether it has decided not to oppose bail, whether it has given clean chit to certain suspects, is being done under political pressure. Perhaps these people were framed at the very first point under another government because of political pressure. Maybe because the Congress party wanted to push the saffron terror theory, they did that. Or maybe when this current government came, they decided to go easy on these suspects. We don't know. We can only hope that the courts of this country ensure that justice is done, that an investigation and justice is not derailed because of political motivations. That is the only hope. So like our experts were saying, when it's the witness protection program, whether it is about having a prosecution directorate to ensure that there is clear direction to these cases and investigations, maybe we need to get that done. And if the governments of the day won't do it, perhaps the courts need to do it. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us. This debate is not done because we still don't know who killed those 68 people who plotted the Samjhauta blast. Thank you so much for joining us.